You can never do too much to put your movie out. And so I was in Sacramento and Dallas, and then took my grandma and aunt yesterday. Like, I've been all over the place, just taking people to the movies because we want people to go see our movie. This is Truly Independent, a show that demystifies the indie film journey by documenting the process of releasing independent films in theaters. Each week, Garrett Batty and I, Darren Smith, will update you on our journey, bringing guests to share their insights into the process and answer your questions. Today on the podcast, we dive into the wider release of Faith of Angels on 375 screens. How did we do? What did the box office look like? We're going to get in deep. This is Truly Independent, episode 19. Garrett, hey man, how's it going?
Hey. I'm doing good, Darren. How are you?
I'm good. I've recovered from being in multiple time zones over the weekend, and seeing the movie multiple times. I saw Faith of Angels Wednesday, Thursday, twice on Friday, Saturday, and Monday. So I saw it 6 times in the last 5 or 6 days.
Okay. Yeah, you've been busy.
Yeah, it's been, we go back to this quote from our friend Brandon Purdy of, you can never do too much to put your movie out. And so I was in Sacramento and Dallas, and then took my grandma and aunt yesterday. Like, I've been all over the place, just taking people to the movies because we want people to go see our movie. But that's what we're kind of talking about today. We had our grand opening of our wider release of the film. And so that's kind of our topic today. Why don't we start off with box office?
Yes. All right. Perfect. It's good. Yeah. Let's see. We're recording this on October 1st. So let's look at that previous weekend's box office. We've got Wild Robot. They came in with 35 million. On almost 4,000 screens.
Yeah, and it felt like all 4,000 were in every theater that I went to, because, man, they just had like 3 or 4 different screens in every theater that we were looking at this weekend. I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah. It is so interesting. And they get multiple screens per theater, right? So even in a multiplex of 20 screens, you've got 6 dedicated to Wild Robot.
Yeah.
As I look at this Box Office Mojo, there are 4 brand new movies in the top 10,
Mm-hmm.
and then if I scroll down to the top 20, add another 4. So we got 8 new movies.
Yeah.
That weekend, 10 that were begging for screens. And when Wild Robot and Beetlejuice still have multiple screens in a theater, it becomes a very crowded place.
Yeah.
But good weekend for them. Beetlejuice 16. How's our model?
How is our model? So I see 1 or 2 that I think are kind of in that sub 1,000 screen range. We have Vindicating Trump at 813, a movie called Lee at 854 screens, and a movie called Azrael 762 screens. So all much bigger than our releases, but really in line with what the Carpenter's planning on doing at 600 screens. And I would even start saying 600 plus, because I think Purdy's just going after it, and they're going to try to get as many as they can. Hey, indie filmmakers and movie lovers. This show is sponsored by Purdy Distribution. Since 2011, they've been bringing incredible independent films to theaters, like Garrett Batty's The Saratov Approach, T.C. Christensen's Love Kennedy, and McLean Nelson's Once I Was a Beehive. They've worked with top-notch directors like Mitch Davis and Mark Goodman, specializing in family, faith-based, and funny films. This year alone, they've released hits with JK Studios like Go West and Villains Inc., and have even branched out internationally with films shot in South Africa and Japan. Purdy Distribution works closely with indie filmmakers, designing personalized distribution plans, whether it's a theatrical release or straight to streaming on platforms like Amazon, iTunes, Google, and more. If you have a PG or PG-13 film ready for the world, think about reaching out to Purdy Distribution. They're approachable and knowledgeable, ready to help you visualize your film's distribution. Even if your film isn't fully polished, they can offer valuable guidance. Plus, if you need that crucial distribution piece for investor packages, Purdy Distribution can provide a letter of intent to distribute, helping you secure funding without locking you into a contract. Mark your calendars for Purdy Distribution's upcoming releases: Tokyo Cowboy on August 30th, the digital release of Thabo and the Rhino Case on September 1st, Faith of Angels in theaters on September 12th, Villains Inc. on Amazon and iTunes on October 1st, and The Carpenter on November 1st. To stay updated on these releases and more, sign up for their newsletter at purdydistribution.com. That's Purdie distribution.com. Now, back to the show.
We've seen them do that for Faith of Angels, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to talk about that. There's some other movies that came out on 1 screen, 25 screens, 5 screens. Now, I want to spend a minute on this because maybe I have an assumption as to how this works, but Saturday Night is a movie that came out over the weekend by Sony Pictures releasing. It's a movie I think about like the first time that Saturday Night Live went live, first episode.
Yeah.
Did 270,000 on 5 screens for a per screen average of $54,097. Now, the only way that I see that happening is if over the weekend they've got 5 theaters and each one of those screens is a 100-seat theater and they're doing 10 screenings over a weekend, and they're somehow getting, whether it's influencers or special screenings or invites, or they're just buying out every theater and they're inviting people to come see it for free opening weekend to get reviews, to get influencers, to get buzz. And that's how they're getting these super high per screen averages, because I don't know that if you just open it in LA, New York, Chicago, Dallas, and San Francisco, that you get, that's 5,000 people per screen to show up. I just don't see that happening from their marketing efforts unless they are personally filling those screens. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know, but that does occur a lot, right? And so I don't know if this is their New York and LA screening. I mean, if you go 5 screens and they're at 54,000 per screen. So what is that? 10,000.
That's 5,000, 5,500 per screen, per theater over a 3-day period.
Yeah.
So you can't even fit that in one screening. Like if you had 100 screens and you did 10 or 100 seats and you did 10 screenings, that's 1,000 people. So how did they get 5,000 people to one theater? Like that's the part that confuses me.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I think your estimate on seats is low because you get to those theaters in New York City. I mean, we opened Faith of Angels. We screened at the Zion's Indie Film Fest and had 900 people on our night of screening.
Yeah, that's certainly
and say, okay.
And I don't know like how big the Chinese theater is in LA and these other big ones, but maybe they're targeting, big auditoriums that have 500, 600 seats in them. The Sarah has 750 in their main room. So yeah, maybe that's the case. And they're doing 10 screenings at a 600 seat room, but still you have to fill all 10 of them in order to get that many per screen average. Like,
I'd be curious too, if it's a premium ticket price, if you're saying, hey, Saturday night is open, is playing on exclusively these screens for select audience for whatever. And your premium ticket price is going to be $25 per, I don't know. Or maybe they do 4-wallet. Maybe they just buy it out and pack it full of the industry people to review it and screen it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's good.
I'm curious here. The only thing I have heard before is that studios will do this model sometimes in order to get lots of press, lots of influencer buzz, lots of posts the week before it goes wide, because what we'll see next week, Saturday night will probably add 500 to 1,000 screens because A, it had a big per screen average, but B, now they've got all this earned media. And that's why I think maybe there's a strategy where they're buying out those theaters and just filling it with whoever they can. But no more speculation. That's not super helpful. Let's dive in.
It is interesting. So one note on that. Yeah. If you take our screen, our opening screen on Faith of Angels at Zion's Indie Film Fest, and you go 900 people saw it that weekend at $15 a ticket. That's a $13,000 weekend, like night in one screen.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, maybe they're doing that multiple times per day over the course of a weekend.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should ask Purdy to add that to our box office numbers for the weekend.
Yeah, add a little 13,000. Yeah. Anyways, a good weekend. Another just interesting note on that weekend. So the distributor SDG Releasing, they did the Am I Racist, and then also this Vindicating Trump. So certainly have a brand that they're going for. But they've got the number 12 and 13 movies in the country. I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and Am I Racist was in the top 10 previously. Last week it was number 7. So.
Oh yeah, it's been in there for a little bit. It's what is it? It's third week out. Yeah. I think that it is interesting to note too. For Carpenter, we're saying, hey, 600 plus screens. We might be more. It might be 750, and the goal is to be in the top 10. But look at these movies like Lee, starring Kate Winslet, and who's the guy? Andy Samberg is in that movie, which is not a comedy, but yeah, Lee, which opened 850 screens, and they are not near the top 10. They didn't break 1 million.
They're the 15th movie this week.
Same with Vindicating Trump, 813 screens, almost 1,000 per screen, and they're number 13. So it's a big ask. Like our goal with the Carpenter to break into the top 10 is not just a given just because we open on 600 plus screens. Like they've done significant marketing for Lee. I've seen clips of late night talk shows with Kate Winslet and Andy Samberg and everything doing their thing, and they opened roadside attractions, knows how to release a movie.
Yeah,
but they didn't. I don't know what their plan was, but I would imagine that they would want a little bit more. They'd want to break 1 million on 850 screens.
Yeah. So here I don't have the perfect data to show, but after doing all the research over the last couple months of box office, I'm going to posit that if your number one movie is like this week, 35 million, instead of having a huge week like Inside Out 2 or Deadpool and Wolverine, some of these, or Beetlejuice, where it's 50 or 100 or 200 million for the number one movie. What I think happens is then all the ticket sales get spread out among that top 10, and the number 10 spot is a really high number, like 2.1 million this week. Howl's Moving Castle, a Studio Ghibli 20th anniversary release by Fathom Events on a 1,500, almost 1,600 screens, did 2.1 million. That's the highest number 10 spot we've seen this year. And so by $500,000, by the way, like by a large margin. So, but what happens is on the weeks where you have a Deadpool or an Inside Out 2 or a Beetlejuice that does 50 or 100 plus opening weekend, then your counter programming is, oh, I don't want to go to a crowded theater and sit in the front row, so I'm going to go see something else. And those are the weeks where you get the $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 box office for the number 10 spot. So whereas a lot of people kind of shy away from, oh, this big, massive movie, Deadpool, is coming out this weekend, that might actually be the best week to release as an indie. We saw it last year with Sound of Freedom. They came out July 4th, which was the same weekend as a lot of big movies.
Indiana
Jones and Mission Impossible, I think, or Top Gun. No, I don't know what it was. I'm not going to say because I don't actually know.
Mission Impossible was right around there.
Yeah, I think it was Mission Impossible. But they ended up doing 250 million and ended up having a great opening weekend because they were counter programming. And so I actually now think, I was really nervous about Wild Robot. I actually thought it was going to do 50 or plus million this weekend, but I think it might be better to open on a huge opening movie weekend rather than a lot of smaller. Like you said, 4 movies in the top 10, 8 new releases in the top 20. Like it's a pretty saturated weekend, so a lot of it got spread out. So something to think about if you're putting your movies in theaters.
I think you scroll down too, and it's kind of fun to see Faith of Angels there on that chart coming in at 23 with 144.
Well, and let's start talking
So-
about all the good things that happened this weekend, right? Because last week we were 29th, and this week we're 23rd. So we moved up 6 spots in the box office. We added,
Yeah.
by the count that's here, we know that we added, and we got up to 375 screens. Box Office Mojo is reporting 324, which is almost 300 screen increase from our limited release in Utah. And so our box office went up 283% over last weekend. A lot of cool things happened. And the coolest thing, when you look at 6-figure box office, now you can start talking about 10,000 plus, tens of thousands of people in a weekend that saw our movie. To me, that is what it's all about. I know I've talked a lot about numbers and box office over this podcast, but really when it comes down to it, if I'm being honest, and if I'm remembering to talk about it, like right now, it's about having people see your movie. And we had at least 15,000 people see our movie over the weekend, Garrett.
Yeah. It is cool. I mean, that's a good perspective to have too. It's fun to look at those numbers and go, okay, there's gross, there is gross increase, screen increase, and percentage from last week. We're up 283%. Obviously, with increased number of screens, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's good. There's also a lot to learn from that. You go, okay, well, 144,000 as is reported by Box Office Mojo. We actually did a little bit more, but some of those screens aren't reporting yet. You break that down over 320 screens, 375 screens, what it was, and that's not a per screen average that's competitive. Like, we're going to be fighting to hold screens. Like, our distributor has to now come up with an argument, a defense on why theaters should hold the movie longer. And so it's an interesting discussion point that we have to be prepared for.
Yeah, and I know I keep harping on this topic of being oversubscribed, but it's such an essential principle for everyone listening to this podcast to understand that, like, yes, we've been touting and promoting the fact that it's in 375 screens and everyone can go see it in a theater near you. And those are all really honest and positive things. But what it did to the economics was it kind of messed it up. We oversupplied the marketplace compared to the demand that existed. We're just speaking in very plain, basic, straightforward economic terms. So if we had, we're looking at about 15,000 people that saw the movie. Well, we supplied way more than 15,000 seats to go see the movie. And so, the numbers don't always work out that way. You're not going to sell every seat in every screening of every theater, right? I went at 2:15 yesterday in Sandy, Utah with my aunt and grandma, and there were 7 of us in the theater that holds 55, right? So but that kind of speaks to the point of, if we had fewer screens, we'd probably have more people in each theater, and then our per screen average would go up, right? So I think that's an interesting thing to talk about for a little bit, of the strategy of, we talked about 200 screens, we ended up at 375, we were super excited, but now we're maybe a little bit like, ooh, the per screen average, that kind of hurts us going into week 2. How are you reconciling all this? How are you thinking about all this?
I'm just along those lines as well, where you say, okay, you have a play and you run the play, and it's a hard call to make. You're like, how much do you buy into the momentum that you're building, and how do you perhaps filter through that to say, what is the reality out there? But yes, I think that it would be interesting to, you can't go back, obviously, but it'd be interesting to say, okay, is there data that supports what you're saying? I think the data does support what you're saying. Is we have to maintain a demand, and so if Purdy is saying, we got theaters that want this movie, say, great, fantastic, that let's maintain that. Let's not immediately satisfy them. Let's maintain it. Say, great. If you want this movie, we need you to help promote it. Put the tickets on sale for 2 weeks and start getting the word out. And here's a little bit of money to help do that. All of the onus was on us, the theater saying, hey, I want this movie Friday and it's Monday. So Purdy's shipping the movie out and we're trying to get the word out via our only resource at this point is social media. And it just spreads everything very, very thin. And so there's not enough demand, I guess, from an audience to go see it. So I mean, I'm kind of processing and thinking out loud, so it's not very coherent thought. But yes, I think limiting the supply to increase the demand would have helped us.
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on some important things that the audience probably has never heard of, like the behind the scenes of how this works, right? So every Monday, we get on a call. Our distributor gets on calls and emails and says, hey, who wants the movie? Do you want it? Do you want it? Do you want it? And these, they're messaging 800, 900 people, bookers. And the ones that come in and say, yeah, we're ready. Yeah, we want the movie. Like you said, instead of saying, great, here's how we're doing our rollout, you say you want it, you can't have it this Friday. You need at least 2 weeks or a weekend in between now and when you release it to put the tickets on sale, for us to promote it, for us to get all the materials to you. Because what I experienced in theaters that had it this weekend, that we booked them on Monday and I was seeing it Friday, the posters weren't up in the theater. We didn't have a standee get to a screening in time. And we and our team are scrambling to try to meet that demand rather than doing it in a really measured and conscious way. And so I think in the future, and this would benefit the carpenter, which is why we're talking about it, if a theater wants it, it's like, great, you can have it, not this weekend, but next weekend. Like, book it now, give us the time to get all of our ducks in a row, let us promote the movie. Because the other thing that happened is we had money set aside for theaters to do co-op marketing. Basically, we're giving them some of our marketing budget for them to run ads or send emails or promote it in their theaters, meaning they'll do like in-theater trailers in their TVs in the lobby and that kind of stuff. We had theaters that didn't spend it because they didn't have time. And we're sitting here going, oh, well, we could have used that money elsewhere, right? Because we're pretty thin on all this at this point. And so when we put ourselves in the position of not having any leverage and just saying, oh, we got to do what we got to do, we got to hustle, and we got to go, then, we ended up with a couple of things that are like, oh, that's not great. Yeah, it would have been really awesome to have Faith of Angels in the theater for a weekend with posters and trailers before people can go see it. Because at that point, we were bringing people to the theaters and texting everybody personally saying, it's there, it's there, it's there, go see it. And I can only do that so much, in a week. Whereas if we had more time, we could have, I think, been more effective with our marketing in the theaters that were opening last weekend.
It's an interesting point because the job has to be done. Like for every, for our Utah release, we had a team on the ground in Utah, you, me, Michelle, and Kurt, and we're all kind of doing everything we can. We're pulling all the levers to say, hey, we've got PR, we've got marketing, we've got advertising, we have the product and the relationships with the theaters, and that's Utah. And we're getting, recording a dozen podcasts and appearing on local stations. We can't do that over and over and over for every market that we open, but that doesn't mean that but that still has to happen in order to have success. And so we have to figure out a way to replicate that scenario in other major markets, which we did on a very small scale with you in Dallas, right? And guess what? Some of our best performing screens were Dallas area. So you appearing at one theater in Dallas for one screening drew enough attention to that area that it improved the weekend there. I went to Atlanta. Now we can get into another scenario where there's a hurricane happening in the southern states, and we're having our premiere there. But that theater, that awareness was there. And so I guess to continue this supply and demand thing, do you say, look, we have enough supply of personnel to go to 2 or 3 cities per week, and that's what we're going to target. And the release pattern is we're going to open in Utah. 2 weeks later, we're going to do Texas and Georgia. 2 weeks later, we're going to do Florida and Carolinas. And do we just kind of platform roll it out that way? I think the whole time that continues to build up demand. Like other people are seeing this and saying, "Oh, that looks fun. We can't wait. When are you coming to Nevada? When are you coming to Southern California?" We kind of get to do that. We're doing a little bit of that model with The Carpenter, and we could talk about that. But that's a thought. Would there be value in that?
Yeah,
I think there would be for something like this.
Yeah. So as we're thinking about applying the lessons learned to The Carpenter, because we have this blessing of we can immediately start implementing some of the things we learned. One of the big things that we haven't yet talked about today is reviews. So we were really, really pushing hard over the weekend to get our minimum number reviews up on Rotten Tomatoes. And the reason that we focus on Rotten Tomatoes is a lot of other sites pull that data and we get free marketing, right? If we're a certified fresh, if we're a 100% on the popcorn meter, then those things can pop up on ticketing sites. I think Fandango shows those things on their site when you're looking at what movies you're going to get. And so if we have a certified fresh 100% Rotten Tomatoes score next to our movie, they go, "Oh, that looks good. I'm going to check it out," right? But we, going into Friday, we did not have the minimum 50 audience reviews. And so you and I were texting our family and friends and everybody that we know had seen it saying, "Please leave a review. Here's the link, direct to it. Here's how to do it." I think 15 out of the 50 were my family and April's family. Like we had to manually get that number up. And I think one of our real missed opportunities was not getting 5 reviews, positive or negative, for the movie before it came out wide, because we're still waiting on 2 more reviews as of this recording before we have a score on Rotten Tomatoes. And the reason you want that is because if it's a good score, which ours will be, because so far everybody's rating it 5 stars, like it would show up on the sidebar. It would be part of Rotten Tomatoes. Here's what to watch. Here's what's fresh this week. Like you get free email marketing, you get free press, you get free PR. And that was a missed opportunity for us. So for me, going into The Carpenter, are we talking to reviewers now about The Carpenter, 4 or 5 weeks out? I think it was 5 weeks out, right? If not, we better get on it this week so we can get some of those reviews loaded up before opening weekend so that people can go, "Oh, I get it. I want to see this movie because the audience likes it."
Yeah. It is fun. It is fun now to go to Rotten Tomatoes. The audience did. I mean, not only was it us texting friends and family, which is obviously a very friendly crowd, and we're going to tilt the scale in our favor. But people that were commenting on Facebook, people that are 2 levels removed from the movie, not that immediate sphere of influence, that are reaching out and saying, "Hey, we saw the movie, we loved it," or whatever it is. Film Frog was doing a good job of responding to them, saying, "Thank you for sharing this on Facebook. Will you please share this on Rotten Tomatoes?" And yes, if I look right now and just go to all movies in theaters and sort by highest audience score, guess what? Faith of Angels is top of the pack. Where there's one other movie, Jungkook, that opened September 18th that has 100, and we have 100, and no other movie does. And so that's a fun stat to be in, and it's a marketing point.
Yeah.
So once we get a 100% tomato meter or 100% popcorn meter, you take that graphic, create it, throw it on Facebook, and it feeds the interest.
Yeah. We need to do that because it's a good one to have. I don't even know how to find that, but
well, by the time people hear this podcast, it'll be there.
nice. That's amazing. So yeah, that to me is a big lesson learned. The other one too, I think, is it's important to have tickets on sale more than 2 days before a showtime, before a weekend, right? Some of the theaters that we booked Monday last week didn't have showtimes available on their site until Wednesday morning or Wednesday midday. And when you're trying to set up a special screening in Elk Grove that you already bought tickets to, you're like, can we get the showtime up, please?
Yeah, you already bought your flights. You were committed to go there, just hoping that they would put a screening
Yeah.
up.
And the faith worked out, right? And we had good show ups or good showings at those screenings. But man, it was stressful going, we need tickets now. Everybody's waiting. There was even a screening that happened on Thursday night in Rocklin, which is 40 minutes from my house in South Sacramento, Elk Grove area. And people just said, well, we're going to go Thursday at 6 because we don't know if it's going to show in Elk Grove. So people in Elk Grove were driving 45 minutes to go see it in Rocklin on Thursday night. And some of those friends came again Friday because they live in Elk Grove and they love the movie and want to support it. But like, that's not fair to them to say, oh, we know it's going to be in Elk Grove on Friday, but they're like, well, we don't see tickets, so we're just going to go on Thursday. It's like, I
Yeah.
love them. They're amazing. Thank you, Tisha. But like, if she's listening, but I think for the Carpenter, I don't know how it works, because every time we talk about this stuff with distributors, it's like, oh, we're at the mercy of the studios, we're at the mercy of the bookers, we're at the mercy of the chains. And it's like, okay, yes, but it's still a marketplace. And we can create some positioning and some leverage here to say, oh, you want our movie? Well, here are our terms. Like, we can't give it to you this week because we don't have enough time to get you everything we need to make it a success. So if you say on Monday, yeah, you can have it, but not this weekend, you can have it next weekend. That gives us time. I don't know that they're going to be upset with that. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. I've never had those phone calls. But man, I really don't want to be doing the same scramble the opening weekend of The Carpenter, going, oh, we got 400 screens this week that came through because everybody's talking about it. How do we scramble and activate those audiences in those areas? You can't in 4 days or 2 days.
Yeah. There's a lot out of your control. There's a lot of variables. And I mean, at the end of the day, you do the best you can. I mean, our job as a filmmaker is to make a good movie, and we're seeing that. We're seeing people respond very well to it, and so the rest is kind of up to the marketplace, up to the audience.
Yeah. Well, and I love what you said yesterday in our weekly meeting, was that faith-based movies are kind of a slow burn. You get people that go through it.
Yeah, they are word of mouth build,
Word
right?
of mouth builds. We've never tried to say we're going to be the number one film opening weekend on Faith of Angels. We had hopes that maybe we could crack the top 20 and those kind of things, but still, it's box office. Big peak on week one is not our model. And the idea that people are going to see it Thursday night in previews, Friday, Saturday, and then they're going to go to church on Sunday and they're going to tell their friends about the movie. And then that's going to inspire people to see it on Tuesday with their family and Thursday night the next week. And then that leads to an opening weekend or a really good, strong second week. And what's unfortunate is I think we're going to miss out on some of that because we're probably going to drop some of the theaters, some of the bigger chains that are all about box office. But a lot of the mom and pops, the smaller ones like the megaplexes and stuff that have now had it in 3 weeks in a row, and they're going to keep going because people keep showing up. And so that's another aspect of it. It's like we have to position the movie as not that it's going to make all the money this weekend, but that if you keep it in and you give audiences a chance to have word of mouth play out, that means you got to hold it for at least 2 weeks. And then you might be incentivized financially to keep holding it because you gave the word of mouth a chance.
It's and that is a discussion the distributor has to have with the exhibitor, and I think you have to have an arsenal ready of reasons why they need to do that, and whether it's if I'm a big distributor, I've got another movie coming down the pipe, and so you're going to hold mine if you want my other movie. We are in that position right now with Carpenter, and so I say, hey, Faith of Angels is in theaters. Yes, We performed in the middle of the pack. Theaters have Joker coming out and Whitebird coming out this weekend. It'd be easy to just throw us out. And the distributor has to say, look, all of those things you've listed, faith-based is word of mouth. Let that Sunday word of mouth carry at least to another weekend. Faith-based is a PG. It's a very crowded R-rated marketplace right now. PG again, attracts a different crowd. You're going to get families Friday night that aren't going to go see Joker. And I don't know, for whatever reasons. Yes, we have another movie coming out, Carpenter, November 1st. If you want it on the break, you need to keep Faith of Angels in for 2 more weeks.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. That would have been a smart idea. If we go in saying, yeah, you can book the movie, but you have to commit to 2 weeks. Again, that's believing in ourselves enough to say we have some leverage here in the conversation. Because it's disheartening and I think disingenuous to say we're at the mercy of the marketplace. Whatever they say goes. I just don't believe that. I think you can frame the conversation a different way and say, look, we have something of value and this is how to maximize it in your theater so that you get as much out of it as possible. So if we had that conversation of, great, we're excited, you can book it, but here's the best way to maximize this movie because we know this stuff. Don't do it this weekend, open in a week so that you have time for us to do some marketing, for you to do some marketing, because we're going to give you some money, and commit to hold it at least 2 weeks. And if you can do that, you can have our movie. It's being a little bit more aware of like, we hold more cards than we think. It's not, please take our movie, please take our movie, please take our movie. We can't have that approach.
That mentality.
It devalues the product in the marketplace. And so if we say, no, this is 100% audience score. This is a certified fresh movie. It is a good movie, but this is how this movie works. You have to hold it 2 weeks. You have to wait. Then maybe we pick the best 10 theaters, right? Or 100 theaters or 200 theaters. And they're the ones who are playing ball. And they're the ones who we know are behind our strategy and want us to win along with them. And those are good partners to have. So that's how maybe I'd change or tweak the strategy in the future. Instead of doing a 30 screen limited release, maybe just having a really leveraged small release, 100 to 200 screens, but we know that all of them are going to perform because they're all on the same page.
Yeah, that's an interesting strategy. I would add to that showtimes.
Oh, yeah.
We're in so many theaters and it's just fascinating. And again, I'm not an exhibitor. I don't run a theater, but boy, if I did, I think I'd pay a little bit better attention than some of these theaters are because tonight, we're at Tuesday night, we're recording. We got one theater that consistently puts it at, does a showtime at 7:00, or 7:10 in that 7:00 hour. And it is selling out every 7:00. And then we have theaters that consistently put us at like 8:30. And I get it. There's lots of other media out there, lots of other product, but at 8:30, they're not selling any tickets. And you just go, okay, well, what is it about this movie? Well, people are coming to it with church groups, and church groups have activities these evenings starting at 7. So it's just kind of a gimme, like, here's how this movie works. And like you say, Darren, we know how it works. And maybe that's part of the discussion is, yes, you can book this movie, but we need these showtimes. Otherwise, it'll fail for you and it hurts us.
When I see 10, 15, or 10 o'clock screenings of our movie, I'm just like, I'm sorry, our audience that's in the theater is either families with kids or older people, our wonderful generation of grandparents that goes and sees movies every week. They go every Friday at 7 or 6:40 or whatever it is, but they're not going at 10 o'clock.
11 in the afternoon, 11 in the morning. Yeah, those always have a couple of seats sold. So anyway, lots of opportunities, lots of like guessing and kind of little data points here and there.
Yeah.
For Carpenter, game on. Like we're rolling out. Purdy is moving forward, booking the screens. We have October starts our premiere month. So we start with a premiere in San Diego, then one in Atlanta, one in Salt Lake, and then 2 in Texas this month, one each week. And we will do all our best to take what we've learned with Faith of Angels and even add to it. So we'll get those, that will be a talking point at those premieres saying, go to Rotten Tomatoes now and give us a review. And we'll make sure that we invite Rotten Tomatoes certified critics to those premieres so that they can have a good experience with the film.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge. And I also think that this probably marks the point where we kind of pivot back to focusing on the Carpenter, because that's the big thing that's coming next and what we're preparing for.
Yeah, we're 4 weeks out.
So I'm just going to be, pounding you with questions over the next 3-4 weeks, because I'm not in the meetings and not as involved in this one. I do want it to succeed, and I want to do as much as I can. And so I'll be at premieres and I'll be helping promote the movie, obviously. But it'll be really interesting to see how the lessons learned from Faith of Angels informs the Carpenter and how it does in a month. It opens a month from today, not 28 days from today, but a month. So November 1st, we're recording this on October 1st. Happy birthday to my sister, Michelle. It's her birthday today. But man, I'm doing all the shout outs today. But I'm very, very excited, and I'm very hopeful, and I want the movie to do well. And I mean, I'm very confident that there will be a handful or a number of theaters that still have Faith of Angels playing when the Carpenter comes out. And I mean, that's a feat that not many directors have done, Garrett, having 2 movies in theaters at the same time. And so I don't want to congratulate you beforehand. I'll hold that congratulations until it happens, but that's an exciting potential little bonus for that weekend.
Kind of fun. Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe those have done it and they say, hey, lesson learned. We're not going to do that again. But no, it is exciting. And I'm grateful that the Carpenter is coming out, that the Krebs family has decided to release it. And yes, we are in the 4-week sprint to the finish. So I just saw some marketing for it today that's coming together. I'm after this podcast, I'm going to hang up and do I have to design the step and repeat that needs to be printed out and shipped to the theater in San Diego for next week's premiere.
Yeah. We are 4.5 weeks out from today. I actually looked at a calendar before, just assuming I knew how long we have. So crazy. 4 weeks from Friday.
Okay, man.
Here we go.
Okay, well, to our audience who continues to listen in, we are going to book some guests. Darren and I have kind of just been a little bit, focused on this Faith of Angels, and so, but yeah, thank you for continuing to listen. Thank you for your questions and for sharing the podcast. I thought it was fun that we got shout out in Deadline. The podcast was mentioned, and so for any new listeners, this is a weekly podcast where we're talking about releasing theatrically independent films.
Amazing.
And all the ups and downs with that.
All of them.
So welcome.
Awesome, man. Good talking to you. We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of Truly Independent. To join us on the journey, be notified of new episodes and screenings, and ask us questions about today's episode, head over to 3coinpro.com/podcast and put in your name and an email address. If you're a fan of the show, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app, and be sure to share this episode with a friend. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Our intro and outro music is Election Time by Kjartan Abel.